Hello, welcome to another Millennial Minute. I'm Julia Sun. Unpaid internships seem to be the new entry-level job in many fields. Today's burning question that's especially relevant to our viewers, all of you: should unpaid internships be outlawed? You already heard from our guest, AJ Swinson. She's the Chief of Staff for the new Journey Pack, and joining her is the contributor for Young Voices, Georgia Gilholy. Welcome, ladies. Look, there are a lot of benefits to unpaid internships, but we'd rather not work for free. AJ, you said that you've been the beneficiary of unpaid internships. Tell us more.
So I was able to work in Congress as an intern with a press secretary and a communications director. It was a lot of work, it was long hours, and I wasn't paid. And would I have rather have been paid? Yes. And I think if a company can pay interns, and they should do so. But I do think they should prioritize being able to give experience to as many youth in a productive way as possible, because it benefited me. The communications director and the press secretary that I worked with ended up offering me my first job out of college, and I would not have gotten a job, which is a year's salary, if people were so focused on me getting paid, $1,000 a month or whatever a stipend would be for an intern. So it's a give and take. I put in that work, but it did benefit me greatly in the end.
And Georgia, you recently graduated college, and I'm sure you're looking for the next big thing for yourself. How has your experience been like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, somewhat similar to AJ, I took on similar roles when I was at university doing my undergrad. Unfortunately, nothing as exciting as interning in Congress, but I totally agree. I think that if we criminalize these kinds of unpaid internships, then we're essentially taking away those opportunities, because the reality is, okay, we would all love to get paid for everything we do. However, if certain organizations, whether they be state, public, private, can't justify paying people at that stage in their career or students, they're simply not going to have those internships if they're forced to comply with paying, a minimum wage for them. And I think there are so many better solutions to this when people might be being exploited, or they can't necessarily afford to do these kinds of roles, than criminalizing it. For example, as I said earlier, saving up during the semester, trying to apply for some kind of financial aid from your university if you're a student. Luckily, there are many options for students from lower income backgrounds at colleges nowadays, which is wonderful. And also, just applying for paid ones, because unfortunately there are many unpaid ones, but in some industries, finance, for example, it doesn't necessarily matter because they can offer quite lucrative, summer internships. I think it very much depends on the industry, but there are ways of prioritizing these things, and there are ways of making sure that people get the best out of their education and out of this kind of training, rather than simply banning them outright when, in the current context with COVID-19 and possibly, another financial crash on the horizon, we don't want to be taking away opportunities when they're already few and far between, especially for young people.
Well, being a young person, Georgia, you know this well, that there are always instances where young people get taken advantage of through unpaid internships. Is that even preventable, like regardless industry?
I would say that whatever the legal definitions are in, the US or the UK, wherever, I think that there are situations where, okay, if you're doing something unpaid for, 6 months to a year, is it really an internship? Can it really be legally defined as an internship? In some circumstances, yes. In others, no. So I think that we need to enforce current laws that we have about, of course, not having people for extended periods of time with no contracts on completely unpaid work. But I think that, as I said, context matters. If you're a massive business, like Goldman Sachs or something, you can afford to pay interns. And if you look at a lot of their schemes, they are paying interns. If you're a small fashion outlet or a small newspaper, small magazine, you simply can't afford to do that. And I think that it's really unfair to those organizations to brand it as exploitation.
AJ, what do you think is a suitable definition? 3 months, 6 months, part-time, full-time?
Well, I would definitely say no more than 6 months or so. Typically, they're a semester, so I did a summer semester when I was in college. People might do a fall semester, which is a bit longer, but still no longer than half the year. And I have to say, I was a Senate page here in Maryland when I was in high school. It was about 3 weeks long, and we were paid each week, although it was a small stipend. And rather than offering a smaller stipend or offering it unpaid, in Maryland, they just decided to cut the program completely. So this is what happened. The experience that I got as a Senate page, now other people will not get to have, simply because rather than them saying, how can we make this more affordable for us as a state? They just cut the program. So I'm really wary of people, jumping from one side to the other on this topic. Let's offer youth experience, which they desperately need, and let's make it beneficial to both the company or the organization and the student.
I mean, I agree with Georgia on this point that if I have the chance to intern in the Congress, I would take it no matter what. Georgia, look, you are a Gen Z. What do you say to other Gen Zers, young people watching this show, when they are offered a job or internship that's not paid but could be a stepping stone to the next thing?
Yeah, I think it's always a difficult question, and of course, people's personal priorities have to come into it. So, on a case by case basis, I couldn't necessarily specify what each individual should do. However, I think in a lot of situations, if you know ahead of time that, okay, there's this summer internship that's going on for 3 weeks in the UK, for example, internships can actually be quite short in the summer. So, if it's 3 weeks during the summer in London, you can be working throughout the semester. I have plenty of weekend jobs, restaurants, bars, that kind of thing, while I was a student. Be saving up ahead of time before even you've applied for the internship, if you have your eye on it, maybe a year or 6 months before. Just try and plan ahead. I know that it's hard to do that when you're a student. You might be having fun partying or whatever, but if there are certain things you have your eye on, I think that whether or not it could be a bit more difficult for you than other people whose parents might pay for them to do it, I think that it's definitely, the opportunity is there if you're willing to plan and prioritize. I think ultimately, if you're the best person, you will probably get the role. But like I say, in terms of finances, it's sort of a matter of planning ahead of time, which is definitely easier to say than do. But I think that lots of students manage it and they're successful in doing so. And, if you have an unpaid internship one summer, the next summer or the next semester, you'll probably have that experience. So you'll be able to get paid for doing a similar thing afterwards.
Yep. Well, it seems like you both think unpaid interns should not be outlawed and they provide good opportunities. All right, I'm for that too. Well, thank you both for joining us, and thank you for watching Millennial Minute. I'm Julia Sun. I'll see you next time.